Whiskey, Mike Bravo. ZS6 Sierra November Yankee, no traffic. 36 Victor India Lima. No traffic.
Okay, Robert, you can probably hear me, but you can't talk back. I've muted your mic. Just wave your hand for me so I know. Right. Hello, Caitlin, you also there. Is that a salute or is that a thumbs up, Caitlin?
6 Foxtrot Papa Sierra, no traffic, but I will have to leave at 6 o'clock. So from the now, I'll be just listening. Over.
Okay, let's acknowledge those that have called in already. ZS6 Whiskey, Mike Bravo. ZS6 Sierra November Yankee. ZS6 Victor India Lima. ZS6 Alpha Golf Echo. ZS6 Foxtrot Papa Sierra. And I see Mr. George is listening. So, George, I take it you still don't have an antenna up. And Norman has given his apologies. Right, any other call-ins? ZS6 IPS standing by.
Good evening, here from ZS6 Papa Mike.
Oh, great stuff. Hello, Mr. Albert. Glad you're joining us this afternoon. ZS6 Papa Mike, I'm acknowledging you. Any other call-ins? ZS6 IPS standing by. All right, the last station that called, negative copy on you there. I think I heard Foxtrot and a Golf, maybe, I'm not too sure. I think if you're on a handheld, you might have to change your position. But let's try again. Any other call-ins? ZS6 IPS is standing by.
ZS6 Echo Foxtrot Golf.
Okay, let's acknowledge ZS6 Echo Foxtrot Golf. Is that an affirmative from ZS6 IPS?
Yes, it's ZS6 Echo Foxtrot Golf. The name is Aaron. Echo Romeo Echo November Sierra, please.
Okay, acknowledged. Aaron's Echo Romeo Echo November Sierra. I acknowledge you there. Let's see if there's any other call-ins. ZS6 OPS standing by. Okay, no further call-ins at this stage. I'd also like to acknowledge ZS6 Sierra Delta Golf. Robert is on frequency on Zoom. And Caitlin, ZS6 Kilo Charlie Mike. Let's do a final call. Any other call-ins for this afternoon's net? ZS6 OPS is standing by. At least we got another station keen up there. So let's hear any other call-ins for this afternoon's net. ZS6 OPS is standing by.
Finger trouble, ZS6 is in line.
All right, acknowledged, Adrian. I take it you're having finger troubles there. Okay, any other call-ins? ZS6 OPS is still standing by. All right, I take it there's no further stations at this stage. Maybe I'm early or they late. I'm not too sure. I have to be diplomatic before I get into trouble. So maybe I'm just late, but let's not go down that path for now. And I think let's kick off. Just remember that I'll have to deal with the timeout timer on the radio. Still haven't managed to get the 7100 and Windows 10 and all the rest of it fully operational as yet. So let's just kick off this afternoon. A couple of things that I wanted to cover. It's not necessarily going to be a long net, and it'll also depend on any questions that are asked towards the end. So I wanted to continue with the MCOM training, which is again from the IARU Emergency Telecoms Guide. That's the one dated September 2016. And a couple of points under Chapter 11 is quite simply regarding net control station operator practices. Now, there's a couple of questions that an NCS operator should answer before opening the net. And one of the reasons I want to bring this up is because of the fact that in terms of preparation or being prepared or getting organized, in anything we do, we should never just look at something and then jump into it and run with it. We should always be asking questions beforehand, establishing some answers, and based on those answers, we can in actual fact determine the best course of action. Now, the first question that an NCS or net control station should in actual fact ask is, can I hear all the stations that will be operating within my net or within the area from my location? And this one becomes imperative and vitally important that needs to be answered. And before we can actually say yes or no to the particular situation, we need to understand the actual location of the net control station. So you can see already before you answer one question, another question has been raised. And that question, or the second question now, is, where am I situated? And naturally following that, where are my other stations situated in order for me to determine whether I can in actual fact hear the other stations? And would it then be beneficial for me? Timeout timer. Okay, ZS6 OPS returning. Would it then be beneficial for the operation for me to act as the net control station? And then from that, you can, you're going to come up with an answer on that one in particular. It could be yes or it could be no. And if it is yes, okay, well then how do I deal with the fact that I cannot hear all of my stations? Or I might assume that I might not be able to hear all of my stations because of the fact that one of the other radio operators is down in a hole. So we're going to now lead into the next question of, all right, so how do we overcome this problem to ensure that I get the information that is required in order for me as a net control station to run the operation in a professional, accurate manner? So as you can see, we need to ask these questions. And a net control station should be in a position where he can hear, or she for that matter, can hear the majority of the stations that may possibly call in. And the net control station can also then determine through this question and answer basis or analysis or assessment, whichever way you want to refer to it, as to whether or not he or she as a net control should in actual fact implement a relay station. So relay stations can in actual fact be utilized between those stations that are out of reach of the net controller. But then one needs to be very careful with the relay station. Firstly, it most definitely will slow down the operation of the net significantly. This actually means that you go, for every one step, 2, possibly 3 or more steps will need to be followed. So on a tactical net, for example, a relay station most definitely should be avoided at all costs, with exception naturally. Because in a tactical net, you want things to move. You want to be able to run that operation as smoothly as possible and as accurately as possible, with the least amount of time, because most tactical nets are the nets that are dealing with the life and death matters. And delays in communication can result in loss of life. Right, so there's 6 IPS returning after a timeout. So these delays can in actual fact result in the loss of life or loss of multiple life, not only of the persons affected or the affected persons of a disaster, but most definitely, the loss of life of your team members, your colleagues, members of other agencies. So one needs to be very careful in terms of utilizing a relay station, because it does slow down the net operation quite significantly. For best results, some area testing via simplex to see which stations can communicate with each other should be conducted well in advance. And please, guys and gals, take note. Well in advance. So that during an emergency, relay stations can either properly be put in place to ensure good communication, or just left out of the net completely in its entirety. You know, if you take a look at what I've been doing with you guys over the last, well, 3 years, eh? I mean, we're coming up over 3 years. The simplex testing. Some of the radio amateurs may consider this immaterial, irrelevant, boring. We got a repeater. Why must we worry about simplex? Well, you never know. The repeater might not be there tomorrow. Depending on the type of situation, the type of operation, that thing could be taken off the mountain. The mountain could be gone. But then you also need to consider the fact that you might in actual fact be in an area where you don't have access to the mountain or to the repeater. You know, as we sit at the moment, we've currently got a station in Coltonville. We've got a station that's on air at the moment. Okay, today is on Zoom. Battis. Hello, Battis. Welcome. BRL. Let me put you on the list. Battis has come up on Zoom today, but that's Pretoria. So already we got Gauteng North. John has gone out with his wife. The kids have taken him out, so our ECRN isn't on net today. So just taking a look at the amount or the area, the operational area that's been covered on a Sunday afternoon. Many of you cannot hear other stations utilizing simplex. And ZS6 IPS returning after a TOT. So I'm just going to abbreviate it TOT now, okay? Excuse me. Now, worst case scenario, fortunately, as I've said before, we're not like or prone to the types of disasters the coastline not only is prone to, but you know, where the possibility exists of severe weather conditions affecting them, especially coming in off of the seafront itself, you know, like a tsunami, where thousands of kilometers can be affected, or square kilometers can be affected. Hundreds of thousands of people can be affected. Up here in Gauteng, especially our area, we don't have that potential, but we do have potential in a lot of other areas that can affect maybe not hundreds of thousands, but several thousand people. It could be several square kilometers, even 100, 200 square kilometers. And we need to ensure that we know who is capable of running a net control station for whatever condition or operation we may be presented with. And this is why it becomes important now to do as it is recommended for best results, some area testing via simplex, to see which stations can communicate with which others. And this should be done well in advance. All right, I don't know, let me just check there. I think I might have dropped off there. Adrian, did I drop out there? ZS6SNY, ZS6OPS?
Affirmative.
All right, guys, if that happens, please let me know. I don't know why. Every now and again, my mic disconnects. Okay, so let me just come back after the timeout. Basically, I think just to wrap it up, I said that it is imperative that we do simplex testing because of the fact that when you take a look at our operational area, or the area whereby radio amateurs are currently calling up on this net. John, at the moment, he's gone out with his wife, so ECRN isn't on air today. Battis is on with me on Zoom, but as you guys know, he's normally on air on a Sunday afternoon, and yeah, Battis is showing me things. Battis, you're about one inch square there on the screen. I can't really see even with my glasses on that. He's normally on air, so that there is now, you know, Gauteng, North Pretoria, and of course we've got Wynand out in Carletonville. So this area itself might not be prone to the types of disasters that the coastline can be prone to. However, even within our area, there are several situations that could arise. Flash flooding is one of them. Fortunately, we're not down on any of the major rivers itself, or downstream any sort of major dams, so that large-scale flooding might not occur, but I mean, we can be affected by severe hailstorms, tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, just to name a few of the natural, and then what one would term the man-made. Sinkholes, we've got a lot of mine shafts beneath us. Who knows, one day, you know, one of the roads might decide to go skinny dip in there and just disappear, along with a couple of vehicles or whatever. So it becomes very important for us to ultimately, at the end of the day, to do as recommended for best results, some area testing via simplex, so that we can establish which stations are able to communicate with other stations, and which stations would, in actual fact, be able to operate a net control with better results than another station, for example. So there's a lot of things that need to be considered when setting up a net control station. ZS6OPS returning. And the only way that we can, in actual fact, accomplish this is by asking the relevant questions. And secondly, practice. And more practice. And even more practice. And in order to practice, we need to do tests. In order to test, we need to exercise. Every single thing that we do, we need to push it to the limit with one objective in mind: to fail. Because if we don't fail, we will never find where the weaknesses actually lie. So every single one of our objectives on a day-to-day basis as ordinary people should be to look for the weak areas. And this is so important when it comes to a net control station, because there's nothing worse than having a control station who is unable to control his station, let alone other stations, because at the end of the day, that control station might think he's sounding brilliant, going out 5 out of 5, all kinds of things, and he's on a CCS handheld, and nobody can hear him, and time is delayed, or time is wasted, and the deployment of resources is delayed, or ambulances are delayed, or fires delayed. It costs people their lives, guys. All right, so I'm going to cut it short on that one. I think the main thing is ask the questions. Now that I'm asking the questions, we've all got to come on board and do the testing, which is exactly where we're going to go to. And we have been doing it. And I know for the last month I haven't called for a simplex test. But guess what? It's coming. It's coming in due course. So, on that note, let's start at the top of the list. If you've got any questions, please go ahead, ask the question. Once you give it back to me, I'll decide whether I'm going to answer it or leave it until the end and then answer it. We can push forward maybe another 10 minutes and then we can close this afternoon's net. Let's move it over to Wynand, ZS6 or Whiskey Mike Bravo, ZS6 OPS.
ZS6 Whiskey Mike Bravo returning. I've got no questions, okay?
All right, good stuff. Wynand, do you have a question? Permission to proceed, ZS6. Whiskey Mike Bravo, ZS6 Oscar Papa Sierra.
ZS6 Whiskey Mike Bravo returning. I'm listening.
All right, good stuff. Firstly, wipe that smile off of your dial because I'm sure you know what's coming. Where's your wife? Why is she not on air today? ZS6 Whiskey Mike Bravo, ZS6 Oscar Papa Sierra.
ZS6 Whiskey Mike Bravo returning. Yes, I was waiting for that. Yeah, Echo Tango Bravo is actually being among you right now at this stage. He's getting stuff ready for the school tomorrow and so on. So that's mainly the reason it's not on here at the moment.
All right, good stuff. Fantastic there. Yeah, no, plug that handheld on her belt there, eh? That can work. Now that you got your crossband repeater operational, that handheld on the belt definitely will work, and with the baby on the other hip. Fantastic. Adrian, let's try it your way. ZS6 SNY, ZS6 OPS.
ZS6 SNY, no questions.
Okay, good stuff. Yeah, Battis, I think come back to us on air. Otherwise, I'm going to have to unmute you. And let's see if you got any questions. ZS6 VRL, ZS6 OPS.
ZS6 VRL, sorry, ZS6 OPS, ZS6 VRL on the net. Yes, I also want to thank everybody for the afternoon chat of the chat group. Yes, from my side, on the training side, there's no question. Hoping everything is really making sense. And that we also need to, like you said, practice. We need to practice. So yes, from my side, thanks, Dad.
Okay, thanks, Battis. Gordon, ZS6 Alpha Golf Echo, ZS6 Oscar Papa Sierra.
ZS6 Alpha Golf, ZS6 LPS, ZS6 AGE. Chad, I do have a question. It's regarding the radio frequency plans for the search, IMCOM search. I might not have been on air the day that you discussed that plan, and have you in fact sent out a hard copy to us? And I think I've missed out on that score. I'm a little bit confused about the band plans. Back to you there, ZS6 OPS, and the group ZS6 AGE.
All right, good stuff, Gordon. Yeah, no, we can talk about that one later. No, I haven't sent anything out. I think a lot of people are in the dark on it as well. So we'll work that one, or as I say, we'll pay that one forward as we go. Eh? ZS6 FPS, my apologies. Let me try that again. ZS6 Foxtrot Papa Sierra, ZS6 Oscar Papa Sierra.
006 Oscar Papa Sierra and the net from 006 Foxtrot Papa Sierra. No questions at this stage, Chad. Thank you very much. Over.
All right, good stuff there. George, I'm going to give you an opportunity on WhatsApp. You can throw your question and I'll answer it there for you. And of course, as I said, Norman and John are putting their apologies. Mr. Albert, I hope you're well, my friend. ZS6 Papa Mike, ZS6 OPS.
ZS6 OPS here from ZS6 Papa Mike. Nice hearing new call signs on the frequency. I've been off for a year or two, so we'll get back into the habit again of tuning in whenever there's something to listen to. So I have the courtesy just to ask if I can just give Ernst ask him something. Ernst, as jy my ontvang, as jy die net verby is, hou ek net gou vir jou 'n bietjie na sê, hoor. Ek het nog laas met jou gepraat. Okay, they chat. Always nice to listen out. Yeah, some of us are fortunate and some of us are less fortunate in where our homes or where our situation is where we stay, and places that is difficult to get out sometimes and so on. It's quite understandable pointing out these difficulties that might occur if you need to make some other transmission and hope somebody will hear you. But some of us are fortunate to be high up, and some of us less fortunate being down in dips and behind buildings and stuff like that. But interesting chat anyway. Thanks very much. That is 6 OPS, that is 6 Papa Mike, to the net. Good evening.
Yeah, no, I agree on that one, Albert. When you're on top of the mountain, it is an advantage, but there again, it can also be to one's disadvantage. In certain areas, etc. And if you're down in the valley, it just actually proves the point where teamwork is the most definite requirement. If people can't come together and work together, everything falls apart, eh? And yeah, so we need to help each other out there, that's for sure. Okay, let's move on. Robert, I'm going to unmute you there. Please ask your question. I will listen. Otherwise, yeah, you guys are on Zoom. I'm not going to hit the PTT and retransmit you. So just ask the question basically off air there. From ZS6 IPS, Robert, go ahead.
Thank you, Chad. Just a question from my side, talking about practicing on the simplex. My son and I have been walking around our suburb, each on handhelds, trying to just establish what the range is from home. What channel, if we want to use the channel plan, what channel do we practice on in terms of simplex? Is there any control on that? That I think is my only question.
All right, acknowledge there, Battis. Got your message. Robert, let me just mute you again there. Robert, ZS6 STG, Sierra Delta Golf, just told me that him and his son, who's also an amateur, they walk around using their handhelds around the area, around their suburb, and they test to see where and how and everything else, which is a brilliant idea. But the big question is, what frequency do you use? I think, guys, look, if you're doing your own individual simplex testing, as long as it's within the amateur bands and it's within the sort of acceptable range of each of those bands, in other words, you're not doing simplex via the repeater inputs and all the rest of it. So, any of the common, but it's entirely up to you as to where you do it. There's nothing specific. However, if I do want to do simplex testing, I'll normally let you know what frequency we're going to go to, and then we can all, sort of jump over and move over there. One thing that I would like to say to the guys at our base station, it is important that you get your base station antennas up. Like Robert and his son, for example. Robert, one of you might be at home and the other one's taking the dog for a walk. Try it with a base station antenna. You'll actually see the improvement in range, etc., whatever the case might be, and you might, you will most definitely knock out a couple of those holes and dead spots and fill them up there. Okay, Caitlin, same thing with you. I'll unmute you and you can go ahead with your question. So guys, just listen out for me to come back. I'm just listening to Caitlin there from ZS6 OPS.
No questions yet, Chad. Just listening.
Okay, good stuff. Caitlin says no questions. She's just listening. So I don't need to relay anything or repeat anything or say anything again. Who else is on the list? ZS6 Echo Foxtrot Golf. If you're still there, please remember Albert will pick up with you as soon as I close the net down. But go ahead from ZS6 OPS. All right, let's double check that ZS6 Echo Foxtrot Golf is still there. ZS6 EFG, ZS6 OPS. All right, nothing heard. And George has come back and said no problem. So I take it you mean no questions there, and that you are impressed with the response time on all the available formats. Thanks for that one, George. Excellent. George, we need to talk about your antenna there, man. I think you must give me a call sometime, and let's hear what's happening with the progress on your antenna situation, etc., etc. Okay, guys, only one other thing that I do want to add, quite interesting. 2 o'clock this afternoon, my TV box decided it's going to freeze up on screen. It does this every now and again, just catches a wobble, freezes. Normally I can't read anything, but today I did actually hear what they are saying, or at least read what they have up on screen. Now, I'm not too sure who this report is by, but it is Geneva-based, so I'm actually wondering if it's not the International Federation of the Red Cross or the International Committee of the Red Cross. But basically, their topic is on the number of displacements throughout the world. Now, please remember that refugees and displacees are 2 different categories of people altogether. Refugees are people who cross a border as a result of normally war-torn or war-like situations. They've extended that now to economic refugees, where the people are leaving the country because there's no money, like we've seen in Venezuela. But a refugee doesn't become a refugee until the receiving state, in actual fact, grants them refugee status. So, whether you are internally or externally displaced, which is what a person is who crosses a border and has not received refugee status as yet, you are called a displacee because you have been displaced from your normal abode or residence. And the report on screen that says 61% of new displacements are due to disasters, and 39% is due to violence. And for me, that is an amazing statistic. All right, ZS6 OPS returning, time out, tot. That is an amazing statistic. If we take a look at the Middle East in particular, as to the number of conflicts that are rolling out throughout, and then you've got your civil wars throughout Africa and a couple of other Asian countries. We've seen areas of South America being affected as well. 61% of the displacees are as a result of natural disaster. With the amount of other wars, etc., 31% or 39% is a very low figure. Normally it's the other way around. So we need to be prepared for anything, especially weather related or disaster related, not violence or war. Okay, so I just wanted to end on that statistic, which I found quite fascinating. I'd like to thank everybody for calling in this afternoon. Let's do a final call for any latecomers. ZS6OPS standing by. All right, good stuff. Hello, Marco. Long time no hear. ZS6 November Echo uniform. Last call. Any other call-ins? ZS6OPS standing by. No, nothing else heard. Okay, guys, thanks very much for calling in. Thanks to all the stations that listened in. Thanks to Robert, Caitlin, and Battis who have come up on Zoom this afternoon. I actually didn't do any call-ins for Echolink. I did leave enough gap for Echolink users to come up there. So I see nobody took advantage of that this afternoon. Just a reminder to everybody that is out there, I run the net every Sunday afternoon from 17 hours 30 for approximately 1 hour. The net is being run specifically for radio amateurs who have got an interest in emergency communications and the procedures associated therewith. The net is open to anybody and everybody. You don't need to be a member of anything, anybody or otherwise. As long as you paid your ICASA license fee, you are more than welcome to come and join us, have an input, ask questions, stretch our imagination, stretch our brain cells late on a Sunday afternoon, etc., etc. So on that note, as per usual, be safe, be prepared, and most definitely, and of course, be happy. This is ZS6OPS releasing 145.625 for general use. Cheers, everyone.